Hey, welcome back, guys. We are back with the Kimchi Family, episode 7, actually, with an NBA vet for a guest. I'll let Marshall introduce him a little bit more, but we appreciate everyone tuning in, all the listeners out there and the viewers. So, without further ado, I'm gonna just hand it off to Marshall because I think we've got a lot in store for this next hour. So, yeah, Marshall, go ahead.
Okay. So good to see everybody. This is lucky number 7. We're back with John Cho, who spent 19 years with the Houston Rockets. And currently he's got his own little venture going that we're gonna give him some space to talk about and learn more about. But really excited to have him. We actually, Daniel, myself, and John were on the call last night. It's my first time meeting him, even though we share the same last name, and we couldn't figure out if we're from the same lineage of Cho family from Korea. But great to have you here, John. Thanks for making the time for us.
No, I appreciate it. I think your organization has a really good cause, and if I can help steer young minds and help them and to be successful, I'm going to do what I can. And I think a lot of people don't get the chance to work at a high level like that, and I'm blessed. I was blessed every day to go to work. I really didn't feel like work, but it turned out to be a 19-year career in one city, and that's really not heard of in the NBA.
Yeah, no, it's really unique. And that's where it was crazy. We have a lot of mutual friends, and I was just telling you even before we got on, I was giving them all a hard time, like, how could you guys not have introduced me to John all these years? And I think we're going to talk about that a little bit, how you carved out that long career by doing all the dirty work on the back end, and not being that type of person who's seeking out the glory and all that. And there's some lessons that you learn along the ways in that. But before we get to that 19-year journey, we've done this with all the folks who've come on. Just tell us about your journey. Just where were you born and raised? Tell us about a little bit about your family and that type of thing.
Yeah, I think I have similar stories to a lot of Korean Americans. Parents came here for education, for opportunity. I think this was back, in 1976. We came here, and I was born a week after we got here. My mom almost didn't make the plane, and my dad jokes about it, but he was trying to time it up so I'd be born on the plane so I could have dual citizenship.
Amazing.
But
Yeah.
he was off by a week, thank God. But you know, I think a lot of the Koreans that did come at that time didn't have much. They came with just their hands and a chance to do something, and give the kids opportunities they didn't have back in Korea. And I imagine myself, like, even moving to another state, and it just seems so hard, and to imagine how bad it was, that they would come to another country with no money, and just because of their kids, to give them a chance. And I think we really appreciate our parents for that, because we know some of the things that we were given here, chance to go to school and not have opportunities to go to college pretty easily. At the time, it was pretty tough to go to even college in Korea. And so, I think we show our parents a lot of appreciation for that, and by doing our homework, by getting good grades, and it goes a long ways. It really helps kind of give you character at a young age.
Yeah.
But
And you said we, and we found out last night that you're youngest of 5. So
yeah,
you were born here, but you have 4 older siblings who your parents traveled with.
yep. I think my oldest brother's about 11 years older than I am.
Wow.
So you do the math. Every 2 years and 2 months, there was another kid coming. So I don't know if my dad was a mathematician or whatnot, but he timed it up pretty well. It's every 2 years plus a month for each
Unbelievable.
kid. So
And your mother was pregnant with you.
yeah, 8 months pregnant. She purposely wore a hanbok so she could kind of hide her stomach. But yeah, that was it was a challenge, because they almost didn't let her come.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank God we were allowed to come here, and I was born an American citizen, and being the only American born citizen as a child, it was like you're the only one that has a chance to be the president. So
Mhm.
a lot of high aspirations for me going through school, and being the last kid at every same grade school, middle school, high school. Everybody knew who the Chos were, and every single one of my brothers and sisters did well in school, and I was expected to do the same. But you learn from your older brothers and sisters. Nobody had to tell me to do homework. You just come home, you take care of business, and then you go play. And life was really simple back then.
Yeah.
Um,
So
and
so what city and what were you playing?
I was born in Houston, Texas,
Okay.
my whole life. Born and raised here. Even with the NBA, I've traveled to 25, 30 cities, and I always think, man, I just want to go home. I want to come back to Houston. I have a lot of friends, family here. Houston's got a little bit of everything.
Yep.
So
Okay. So high school? What high school did you attend in Houston?
I went to A-Leaf Hastings High School.
Okay.
It was we had a sister school, Elsa High School. It was
Okay.
our sister school. It was right next door. That's where Rashard Lewis went.
Nice.
Yeah, he was
Yep.
one of the best basketball players out of Houston at the time.
Yeah.
So it
And
was
Houston
good.
basketball is not to be slept on.
No, Houston, Dallas.
So much talent there. Yeah.
Texas is doing all right. I'm looking through a lot of these recruits, and
Yeah.
there's a lot coming from Houston and some of the suburbs of Houston now too. So
Yep.
good stuff.
So now, did you play any sports? Obviously, we touched on even last night a little bit. It's not like you played basketball growing up or anything like that, but you watched a little bit, I'm assuming. But were there other sports that you played and found a passion for, like team organizations or sports of that nature?
Not really. I think kind of growing up, I wasn't the most athletic. I would be the husky gene wearing kid, the pudgy kid. But I did do the typical taekwondo, but I would never have traded that for anything, because the master that I had was very disciplined, and he taught me a lot, and he gave me the flexibility that I have today. So my brother, because growing up in a Korean household, my dad worked from sun up to sundown. He wasn't really there, pushing me to do sports. My mother really didn't have any interest in sports, didn't even know any of the, rules or anything of any of the games. And my older brothers and sisters were the same. They really didn't have much interest in sports, so I wasn't really pushed in that direction. But later on, I think maybe when I was in 7th grade or so, my brother was like, "Hey, let's start playing baseball." So he's the one that actually signed me up for Little League, and I got to, see that camaraderie that you get from team sports and make friends through sports, and it was different. It was I loved it. I wouldn't, again, I wouldn't trade that for anything.
Yeah.
But I wasn't the best either. But
Yeah.
it's something. It's always it's good to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation and learn from it and figure out how to do better at anything. And that was one of the things that I had no idea going into. I just bought a baseball glove the first practice, but by the end of by the end of this season, I was decent. I was average, So I'm happy that my brother pushed me to do that. And it usually doesn't come from siblings. It's usually the parents pushing it. And I'm just blessed to have a older brother that cared for me like that.
Yeah, it's a little different when you do have 4 older ones telling you what to do and how to do things, and
Sure.
you've doubled up on that situation there. What did your parents do for a living?
My dad started off, I think right when they came here, they did the typical cleaning buildings at nighttime and had odd jobs during the day. But my dad was a bus driver in Korea. His family was actually well off, but there was a lot of family quarrel over the land and things like that. So he ended up owning running an apartment complex, and he also drove a bus. But back in the day, he told me that if you drove a bus, you had to be able to repair the bus too. So he learned all his mechanic skills from that, and he translated that into doing body work. My dad's always been great with his hands. He's just like, he can make a body part if he wanted to out of just sheet metal, and he did at times. But I don't want to go on too much of a tangent, but basically my dad was fixing cars out of the garage, and there was a family next 2 houses down that was doing the same.
Yeah.
And he was taking everybody's business in the neighborhood, and they called the
Unbelievable.
cops on him. And
Of course.
forced my dad to open his own office and a shop. And
Oh, so legitimize them.
it ended up being like
Hey.
the best thing, like to get him started
Right.
in a business that has now grown into I think a few years ago they cleared a few million, like $5 million in revenue that year. So he and he still doesn't speak English. He's been in the States for 44 years now, 45 years, and he was able to get by with just his work. He didn't do any advertising. It was just like, you point at the car, he tells you how much it's going to be, you fix it for him, and then they tell all their friends, hey, this guy's just fixing cars beautifully, and it costs half the price. So it's amazing what you can do, even when you're kind of crippled that way, where you can't even speak the language. Your work speaks for itself, and I've translated that to everything I've done. When I first came to the Rockets, I never played organized basketball. I barely knew the rules. I definitely didn't have a jump shot, but
we saw some photos you sent today though. Your J looked nice, man. Like
you were getting
the
up.
part, brother.
You had some lift. You had some
full
lift on that.
extension.
So the way I learned how to play was when I was with the equipment staff. That's the first job I had with the team. You do laundry. What do you do when you're doing laundry? You got to wait. So when we were waiting, we were out there just shooting J's all day long, and I was ending up like being one of the best horse players in the gym. I have a really good story. It was my first or second year when Dream. It was Hakeem Olajuwon's last year.
Yeah.
Everybody sits around, they're stretching, getting ready for practice. Dream's over there. I think he was probably like, on paper anyways, he was like 35 or almost 40 years old. And everybody's stretching, getting ready so they don't pull muscles. He's over there shooting 18-foot jump shots. That's how he warmed up. Yeah. And I was always rebounding for him during that time. And he's like, after probably 2 or 3 months of doing that, he's like, let me see your best move.
Come on.
He threw me the ball.
Come on.
And I'm like, the only way I can score on this guy is a reverse layup. So I just drove as hard and fast as I could, got extended as far as I could, and shot a reverse layup on him. And he was like, he gave me this look like respect, like that was like.
Shut it down. We're done. We're done with the interview. Thanks for coming, everybody. John Cho scored on the Hakeem Olajuwon. Interview over.
After my first 2 months, I was like, man, I'm done. What else can I do here? So,
unbelievable.
But yeah, you it's like anything. You practice, and you really care, and you study the game.
Yeah.
I've been through probably 20 different coaches, and every time they're shooting with a player, you pick up on little things. Carol Dawson was one of those guys. He was a genius when it came to shooting free throws. Like, he knew every little cheat drill, whatever it was that you could work on for 5 minutes, and you would just increase your free throw percentage. Yep. And I started noticing that. BJ Johnson was another guy.
Yep.
He just
rest in peace, rest in power, BJ.
Oh my God. And he would just look at you and watch you shoot like 5 or 6 shots, and then come and say, hey man, come here. Why don't you try this real quick? And everybody's like,
hey man, get over here, man. Yeah.
Who's this guy? And then boom, 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 you start making every shot, and it was just amazing. And when if you start working with all these talented coaches and you just pick up one little thing from each coach, all of a sudden, and you apply that stuff to yourself, even all of a sudden you're playing mental games of how to get better in everything you do. So my biggest thing for the young guys that are even interns, open your ears up, listen, and absorb that stuff, because that stuff is priceless. You don't pick that up in school. You don't pick that up from playing. Like, these little, words of wisdom, you need to keep it and absorb it. And then if you get the opportunity, you regurgitate that stuff, because man, that stuff is priceless. And I've been very lucky. I've worked with so many good coaches. It's
so I'm going to cut you off there for a second, because everybody hold on to your horses, because this is gonna be a ride for the next 40 minutes, because we're 10 minutes in and John already dropped a move on Hakeem Olajuwon, brought up a legend in BJ Johnson. This is gonna be a wild one. Hope you guys have your pen and paper ready, because we're gonna take off. But listen, John, so we just completely skipped over your 4 years at Texas A&M as a computer engineering major, even before you skipped to the Rockets. So
Yeah.
you did do that. You did get an advanced college degree.
I did, and you know, I was the kid that was in fifth. No, I think I was in second grade maybe, and my parents bought me an Apple IIc. And you know, we didn't have money like that. I think it was over $3,000 back then for an Apple IIc, and it was a no-brainer. My dad was like, you know, this is going to help you with your learning computers. He just bought it, and that was mine, like as a second grader. And money was tight back then, but that even put more pressure on me to produce something.
Wait, hold on. As a second grader?
I'm telling.
Come on, John.
In second
the
grade,
Chos do not play. The Chos of Houston, Texas are not playing.
I'm not trying to toot my own horn too much, but in second grade, me and a team of guys entered a computer programming contest, and we built a choose your own adventure using like little turtle logo matrix graphics. Seriously, you would like grid out pictures with this little square, and we made a choose your own adventure program. And because I loved those books when I was growing up, but we made those programs and we got second place out of like the whole state.
Yeah.
So you know, it's like, man, give me a tool and we'll see what we can build out of it.
So listen, your dad, I mean, what you just shared about your dad is so revealing, at least for Daniel and myself. Just hearing, sorry for everybody else, we got to hear a lot of John's 19-year journey, but it's so revealing that your dad was that guy who would put his head down, do his business, you know, wouldn't market himself and still, you know, had this brilliant business that he built up. And you just shared with us what a nerd you were just on second grade, all the way connecting the dot to being a computer engineering, you know, major at Texas A&M. So you come out, you've never played sports really for the most part. You're the youngest of 5. You have all these expectations to go and conquer the world. And you end up with the Houston Rockets. So how does that happen even?
Yeah, you know, right after I was finished with school, my brother-in-law now, there's a whole nother story about that, but my brother-in-law now was really good friends with the equipment manager with the Rockets at the time, Jay Namath. And they had training camp in Austin in, what is that place called? Oh man, he's gonna kill me for not remembering the name of the school, because I still talk to the coach that was there. St. Stephen's. Really good school there, high school program out there. And his son actually got recruited to Kansas. Okay. Anyways, KJ Adams. Yeah. His dad, man, I gave him my number, 19 years ago, and he still calls me every once in a while. Hey, I was just wondering. Anyways, I'm sorry. But
shout out Coach Adams. Okay.
There you go. But basically, it was in a small private high school gym, so they needed to have the camera guy go up in a lift, 30-foot lift to film practice. And the guy at the time was not able to do that, so they brought me in just for the week, just to film practice, and that's all I was brought up there to do and get paid. I think minimum wage at the time was $4.75 an hour. And I went up there, you know, enjoyed the lifestyle of being around the rich and famous, and just never been around that popular group. You know what I mean? To me, it's the popular group.
Yep.
You know, it's like
it's the cool kids.
Yeah. So I fell in love with it, man. It was just every day was exciting to wake up and see what was going to happen next. But you know, they asked me to film practice, and they expected me to just sit there when there was water breaks, or when, you know, there was some intermission meetings or whatever. They expected me to just sit up there, but I'm sitting there coming down the lift, and I started filling up Gatorade waters, grabbing towels, like asking guys, you know, how can I help out? And I just did whatever I could to help the team. Yeah. And Rudy Tomjanovich at the time, great coach, by the way. great mind. Really knew how to use his pieces and get his players involved in the decision making. It was amazing.
Yeah.
But he noticed the energy that I brought. He noticed how people fed off of my goodwill, my hard work, and he was like, "Man, we need that around here." And he asked Jay, "Hey, see if he wants to stay here and work hourly, and he could be your assistant, and he could help out with whatever rebounding, whatever's there." They didn't know I had a computer background back then. They didn't realize that I could help them with technology and stuff. They just saw the work ethic that I had and the attitude that I brought every day.
Yep.
And that's where I got my start. I was, and I 100% I disappointed my parents, because for the first 3 years after graduating college, I was probably making $4.85 an hour, and having to work.
You got a 10-cent raise. I remember, listen, man, you and I are the same age. I was born in May 31st. I came when I was 10 years old.
Wow.
Like Daniel's sitting here last night, he had to listen to two old fogies, just kind of, reminiscing about the 80s and the 90s. I remember the number 4.75, man.
Yep.
That was the minimum wage. And it's a shame that it's not 15. Sorry, let me not get on the tangent, but 4.75 in 19, whatever it was.
And I had to work 60, 80 hours back then just to make enough to pay rent, to buy, get an apartment.
Yep.
And pay insurance, whatever it was, like that, you had to just push yourself, and they allowed it. Because of who you are. Anybody else, they'd be like, "No, you're just sitting here doing nothing. You're not going to sit here and work 60 hours." But and that's where I got my start. And every day I was just looking at it like there was a problem that needed to be solved. And that kind of led me down the path to get to every next step of my journey with the Rockets, which was it's unheard of. There's not many people that start in an organization making $4.75 and then stay there for 19 years, get promoted every three to 4 years. Having guaranteed contracts was something like, I was like, this is real. Like, they treated us just like the players. Any contract situations, per diem type stuff, you got treated just like the players. And I was like, I got to make this work. Like, this
what do you mean by that, treated like the players? You mean in terms of negotiating, in terms of that type of thing?
Yeah, no, we were getting guaranteed contracts for 3 to 4 years. So even if they let you go after 2 years, they had to pay out your deal.
Gotcha.
And, my first deal with Van Gundy was probably in the 40s or something, but still, it was amazing to me to see that they have enough faith in a staff member to give them a guaranteed contract. And I don't think it was mandated or mandatory. But it was something that I knew that I had to protect and secure and do whatever it took to get to the next level.
Yeah. So now you have a little bit of a run with Coach Rudy T towards the end of his run there, assistant equipment manager, and then next comes Jeff Van Gundy.
Yeah. Actually, when Jeff Van Gundy came, he another amazing story in Austin. And, that was my first time working. Was it Austin? Yeah, it was Austin. Working with Coach Van Gundy. Whew. You want to talk about the other side of the fence? Rudy Tomjanovich was a player's coach. He enjoyed practices. He made it fun every day. That's what his goal. Van Gundy was a workhorse warrior. Like, there wasn't a day that didn't go by where he was the first one there, last one out as a head coach. And, as a video guy, you're expected to be there an hour before him and an hour after. And I didn't mind it because I saw the work he put in, and it wasn't for himself. It was to make the team better. So I learned a lot from him. But the first time I met him, he came to Keith Jones, who's our vice president, our Houston Rockets vice president now. But he's been the head trainer there for many, many, many years. Everybody in the league knows Keith Jones. He's worked USA basketball for years. Like, he is probably the most renowned head trainer in basketball, period. But he approached Keith Jones and said, "Hey, I have this post-game stat pack that we do behind the scenes. Nobody else knows about it. We don't get the stats from anywhere. We have people hand tracking this stuff. Here's the final report. Is there someone that can, replicate this process and make it happen? And Keith thought for a few seconds. He's like, well, John went to school for computer engineering. He's probably the closest guy we have here. We're in training camp. There's no, at that time, there was like an IT help guy. There was no IT department, nothing like that. So he presented it to me and said, see if you can make this happen. And I was still with the equipment staff at the time. I'm folding laundry, I'm putting out gear, I'm making sure the players have what they need during practice. And I get this thrown at me, and it's, I think it was like 6 or 7 o'clock after practice. I think we just had finished eating, and it got presented to me, and I was like, I think I can do it, but I don't have a computer. So the next thing I thought of was, where can I get a computer? So I went to Kinko's. Back then, I don't know if they still have little workstations there, but you could rent computers for an hour by the hour there.
Yeah, Daniel's looking at us like we're talking about like dial telephones right now.
I know what Kinko's is. I know what Kinko's
No,
is.
but a workstation, bro?
Oh, no idea. No idea.
This isn't like a coffee house, cafe or whatever. But so I went in there at probably around 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I just started grinding. It was probably 20-page report. And I was like thinking, okay, how are we going to do this? First thing I did was start making stuff in Excel, handwritten little printouts of how you could even track this stuff on paper. Okay. I built all those out. And then I was like, okay, once you have those handwritten stuff put together, we need somewhere to enter it in. So then I built the dashboard to have all that. This is all in Excel.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, now I got to make the report out of it. So then each sheet, I was just working, didn't even look at the time. All of a sudden I look up and it's like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning.
Unbelievable. And
the guy that works the night shift is like, I have never seen anybody just sit there and work for 12 hours straight like that. Like, he said there's something wrong with me.
No, he took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah.
I was about to just say that. What is wrong with you, brother?
So, I'm all proud. I'm like super stoked. I'm like, man, I didn't know how I was going to solve this problem. I came in here, just grinded. And then I had like 40 sheets of paper with everything on it, all the handwritten, how to do it. And I went in, and Jeff was coming out for practice, and I handed it to him. He goes, pardon my French, what the F is this? And I was like, it's the handwritten part of it. It's the data entry part of it and the report part of it. I just printed it out, but I have it all stored on I don't know if it was a floppy.
What, a floppy disk?
But, and he goes, oh, shit. This took my staff almost a month and a half to build this. And
before he came to the Rockets.
In New York. Yeah, in New York. So
respect.
And he was like, oh, there's no way. And then he looked through it before practice. By the end of training camp, we were coming back on the bus, and Keith Jones like, hey, he wants you to be on the coaching side now. He wants you to be in the video room, maybe doing some stats and video, and he wants to double your pay. And I was like,
God bless Jeff Van Gundy.
What the heck is going on? I worked one night, and my life has just changed.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So
but you're not hey man, but you weren't an overnight success. I mean, we'll talk about that here in a minute because you're still early on your 19-year tenure, but you are the son of this immigrant parents, crazy dad. You're a computer. You are way overqualified for your job.
Sure.
And you get your due, which by the way doesn't happen for most people. So you definitely count your blessings, and you have some bumps in the road ahead of you, but at least you find somebody who values what you bring to the table in Jeff Van Gundy.
Yeah, and at the time, that was what, 2002, 2003. Mm-hmm. There were no coaches using Elias stats and all these stat providers. They were just watching the game, taking notes, old school, how you break down games, and back then it was VHS.
Yeah. So
it was like, man, for someone to appreciate the analytics at that time was like a blessing to me. And it gave me a path to get into the coaching side of things.
Yeah.
And I feel bad. I feel like I wasted my first 4 years not studying the game. I was so head down and doing trying to figure out the better way to fold clothes and things like that. Like I didn't even care about the basketball stuff because that wasn't what I was, required to do. So,
Yeah.
but
That reminds me of what you shared yesterday. And this has come up now. How many times, Daniel, just doing the dirty work, right? Ted Kim was talking about Ted, is a video coordinator for the women's basketball program at Duke. And he said when he was a GA at Gonzaga, he wanted to be the best laundry folder, in the West Coast Conference. Like it's taking pride in the dirty work. And you shared a story yesterday, among those first 4 years with this, being an equipment manager, right? Drove you nuts when you saw a creased laundry coming out.
No, I almost want to say we revolutionized the way we folded clothes because basketball teams, when they're on the road, they get their game gear and their practice gear done by the visiting team most of the time, and they paid great.
Yep.
But you had subpar guys that really didn't care about detail when they were doing laundry.
Yep.
They just wash it. It might be dry, it might not, and they just threw it in a mesh bag, zipped it up, and threw it and just dumped it into a duffel bag. By the time you open it up, it looks like there's 1,000 creases in it and just looks terrible.
Yeah.
Probably not with the Nike gear nowadays, but back then it was a little cheaper made. But
yeah,
I was like, why do we do it that way? Why don't we just lay it out, put the jersey out, put the shorts in there, put the socks in there, fold it, roll it up, and then put it in the laundry bags. And when we did that, I think Utah was the first place we started, doing it for other people. It was during Summer League when Utah used to have Summer League over there. And they're like, the players? It's because the equipment managers, they just hand them out. They're like, the players open it up and they're like, what the heck? This looks brand new. And we started getting double tips and they were happy to save their gear to give it to us just because we did it, better. And now it's the standard. If you look everywhere you go, it's the standard of how you fold the laundry, you roll it up, and it's take pride in what you have to do. It doesn't matter if you're, picking up towels or if you're handing out Gatorade, make sure you don't spill the Gatorade, whatever it is. Like, people are watching you. People see your work ethic, your attention to detail, and it doesn't matter what you're doing. So that's something that I kind of live by. And, a lot of times I get scrutinized for it. Why do you care so much about that? Why are you spending so much time with? Because I care. It's, and if it's not you, I'm doing it. Then why are you worried about it? So, but there's a lot of haters out there that you have to be careful of too. So
and like Marshall just mentioned before, you've got Ted Kim that was doing laundry, and just everyone that we had on, it's striving for excellence in the little things, right? And we can get some of that energy and get that motivation from our parents that have come from another country, have no idea what the language is, and you're obviously stuck with blue collar jobs, right? And you just try to do the little things as best as possible, and that's how you separate yourself from someone who could speak English or do other things that you probably can't do or know the culture, right? So I think that stems off of that, and that really, even just you doing laundry like that, it puts people on notice, right? And I think that's one of the things that as we grow up as like immigrant with immigrant parents and the second generation and third generation and whatnot, like we've got to keep that same energy, and so that's just an observation that I had.
I mean, it's not crazy, Daniel. It's just a running theme between every guest that we've had so far. So no, it's incredible, man.
I do want to give a shout out to Ted Kim. I love the guy.
You do, Ted.
Yeah, no, I've showed him our platform and got a lot of feedback from him and trying to get some women's teams to buy in as well, because I almost feel like a lot of women's team use analytics more. And they have some pretty good sites out there that are already out there that really surprised me. But I love Ted Kim, man.
Shout out Ted.
He tried to connect me with everybody he knows, like day 2. And I'm like, man, this guy is he's amazing. Like he cares about just people around him
Yeah.
having opportunity and being successful, especially, if it doesn't
Um,
cost a lot of your time
Listen, good people attract good people. And again, I'm rating you in like you asked me to do last night because during the Van Gundy era, I'm just curious, did you shoot a reverse layup on Yao Ming as well in talk
No,
crap?
I was with Yao Ming. Let's see what my biggest feat with Yao was. I went to fix his Wi-Fi at his house, and and he was like, "Man, I need a new router. This one's broken or whatever." And I was like, "Okay, I'll just run
Wait, and this is year what? Is this the year he had his translator? Is this like year
it."
2? He kind of
No, this
speaks
is
English.
probably later in his career because he had a broken foot.
Yes.
His foot
Okay,
was
so
broken.
way late.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I was over there. He was like, "Hey man, I know you know everything about computers. Can you just take a look?" And I'm looking at it, and it's like way outdated. I'm like, "Man, you can't even game off of this thing." He's playing World of Warcraft like 6 hours a day. So I was like, "You probably
Breaking news. Wait, hold on. Okay, no. We
but
got to keep going. Sorry.
no,
So
but
yeah, he can't even game. Okay, go on.
I think I took my wife over there with me, and I was like, I'll just run over to Best Buy, pick you up a router, and run back. He's like, "No, no, no. We'll take my car. I'll go with you." So he gets in the car, or we're walking to his car, and he's like, "Why don't you drive since my foot, I can't really drive." I get in his car, and it was a Sequoia. My wife gets in the back. He sits in the passenger side, and I sit down, and his seat is special. It's probably dropped a foot and pushed back like 3 feet.
Of course.
So I'm sitting there holding on to the steering wheel like this. I'm like, so this is what a bus driver feels like. And
Hey,
I'm
your
like,
both life is a circle, man. Life is a circle. Your dad was a bus
there
driver.
it is. There it is.
You are
There
your
it is.
greatest feat. By the way, that's like 10 years into his career, and you're telling the story of come on, there's gotta be more, but go on. Go
Yeah,
on. Life
no,
is
it's crazy because we go into Best Buy and I see what he sees. Like, you think that it's great being the superstar and this huge
No.
7'6" guy that was dominating at the time, and you walk in and it's just like silence, and every head just turns.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, dude, this is what it's like to be Yao Ming.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at Yao and I go, "Why is everybody looking at me?" And he just starts laughing. He goes, "Oh, come on."
Oh, that's a good one.
But,
He appreciated it.
yeah.
He's got such a great sense of humor.
Oh,
Unbelievable. It's funny. I have a privilege of running his foundation camp in
wow.
August in China. And same thing that you mentioned, like when he comes out of, and again, you're in rural China and you come out of those little tiny little vans where he's squished into it, and this giant figure emerges. It's almost like when the great whale just kind of is coasting through the ocean, and all the little fish are just kind of like,
Yep.
I've never had and it's like what you notice in the Best Buy in Houston. Like
Yeah.
he is such a magnet for just your eyes just going there.
Yeah.
But
No,
he has such a huge heart, such a great sense of humor.
I've never been had enough time to really go see the rest of my family in Korea. And I'm looking for that opportunity as soon as I retire. Hopefully in a couple of years. But
Yeah.
but
And then you'll hop over and see Yao
yeah.
in Shanghai.
But because of Yao, I was able to go to China 3 times with the Rockets. We had preseason events over there.
Yep.
And I got to go there with my wife and see what at least Asia was like.
Yeah.
And man, you want to talk about crazy, like he gets out there and it's a madhouse. Like it's like the Jordan times 10. It was amazing.
Yep.
They had so many police officers and barricades. It didn't matter.
Yep.
It didn't matter. Like it was just like they're gonna get to him. So
yeah. But so you did eventually upgrade his router game. He got to play some more video games and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
You took care of him.
He was happy. Yeah. No, but it was tough for me to see because I was very Americanized, right? I was born here.
Mm-hmm.
I knew the culture. I knew what rap music was. That's all I listened to when I was in high school and middle school. But yeah, it was different. He was straight from China, barely spoke English, didn't speak English. We had a translator for him, and very misunderstood. I felt bad for him. They would make fun of him, like right in his face, and it was just like, this isn't. It gave me that that feeling inside, like, man, it's just not right. Like these are good people. These players are good people, but they make these jokes, and if he understood it, it would be very hurtful. I
Mm,
understood it, and I was hurt by it, just
mm,
because I was friends with everybody.
mm.
But it's just, I don't know. I don't want to make excuses, but a lot of times what you don't understand, you make fun of.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And
Speak on that, man. Speak on it.
yeah, no, I think there's a way to do it where it's playful and understood by both sides.
Yep.
But when you're doing it and it's one direction, it's very, very hurtful to see.
Mm,
But it's crazy because every one of those players were good-hearted people, but it was just okay to do. You know what I mean? It was, I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it, but I didn't like it.
yep.
And I think if I was to go back and I have the voice I have now, and I
Yep.
wasn't the young video guy and
Yep.
worried about job security and things like that,
Yep.
I would have said something about it.
Yep.
And that's what changes or lets people know at least what you're doing is wrong.
Yep.
What you're doing is hurtful.
Yeah.
And it makes it so that other people think it's okay, which is
Yep.
means even though you're doing it now, everybody around us thinks it's okay to do that.
Yep.
And that's where it's easier for me to say that now, but that would have been the right thing to do, is to say, you know what, just cut it out. Like,
Yeah.
there's no reason for it.
It's almost like high school all over again.
Yep.
As you're saying that, I think about the biggest regrets I remember, and I played basketball in high school, so automatically like put me in the cool crowd, like you were saying, when you're up there in that your first years. And my biggest regrets were always like when you're hanging out with the cool kids, and it's what you said, just say something in passing, and you don't, it's what we're experiencing now as Asian Americans, is that the loneliness that we feel as a group, ethnic group in this country, is when we don't feel like others are speaking up for us.
Yep.
And hopefully, for some people who are listening to this who are not of Asian American descent and don't know the immigrant experience here, the conversation you and I are having is an eye-opening one, that if I can relate it to, it's just like to me, it was like when I would see kids being bullied for the clothes they wore,
Yep.
or things of that nature, that I didn't speak up and stand up for that person. To this day, it's one of my biggest regrets.
Yeah. No, and I don't want to just isolate Asians and Koreans, like,
Sure.
Lithuanians and
Mm.
Germans and whoever, it's just
Anybody who's new or not understood, right? Is your point.
That's what it is. That's what it
Yep.
is. And I don't know. I don't know why, you're already professional basketball players. Why do you need to feel better about yourself by doing these kind of things? So,
Mhm.
yeah, but it's
Can we stay on that for a little bit? I
okay.
said I would rein you in, but man, you just took this this is on you, John. You just took this in a whole nother direction, brother. But connecting the dots, you also got to see many years later Jeremy Lin come in with the Rockets for a brief period of time.
Yep.
Can you just for background, I guess maybe just share a couple impressions or stories from that, and then maybe we can even talk about what happened to him as he moved on in his career, and what your observations on that might be.
Yeah, I think Jeremy falls into the same category as me, like very Americanized,
Yep.
understood the culture probably more than I did,
Mm-hmm.
and was well accepted. We had a younger team then, and I think he really clicked with those guys.
Yeah.
Those guys really appreciated him, but you could see in Jeremy's eyes that he had a chip on his shoulder. Like he's always had to fight harder or feel like, there was a reason why he didn't get to the next level. And, right away, I think the year he got traded to New York, we had 2 point guards ahead of him. So he didn't even get practice time.
No.
And, it's training camp. Like let them at least give him a chance. Let's see what he can do. And it ended up costing us $10 million to get him back. So and it led to Linsanity. So it's like you make what you can, the situations you're put in.
Mm.
But I love Jeremy. Jeremy
Yeah.
was a good-hearted person. Like right away, one of my really good friends was a leader of a church group. And he was like, man, it would be amazing if you had Jeremy Lin come speak his testimonial to the congregation. And I was like, dude, there's no way Jeremy's doing this. Like, I didn't know that he was such a strong, Christian at the time. So I asked Jeremy, and he was like, oh, what time? What day? Okay, I'll be there.
Yep.
I was like, what? I can't even go. So he was like, don't worry about it. I'll just go. It's not a big deal. He goes, and there's 2,000 people that show up to this just to listen to Jeremy Lin's really touching testimonial of his journey to God, and it was amazing. Like that, I can't even get a rookie to come to a summer camp for kids. So it just showed that how true he was to what he represented himself as, and I think that to me showed a lot about his character. But it was hard for me because I saw him as me, kind of like myself around the players. Every once in a while there's an Asian joke or whatnot, but it was in a way that it was kind of laughable. You know what I mean? It wasn't hurtful. But I don't know. Maybe at the time I was a little younger and I didn't scrutinize it like I would have now. But I felt like it was in a good nature. It wasn't about the way he looked or anything really hurtful, but it just was a way to identify that you're different. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But
that's what we experienced, isn't it? Though.
Yeah, no,
it's
no.
that other. Hey, man. Like if you go into a restaurant and maybe it's the Cheesecake Factory or PF Chang's,
Sure.
like even something simple as that is like, oh, you're going there, right?
Yeah.
Am I? Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard for me too because I grew up in such a melting pot of a city. Even A-Leaf itself was a lot of Asians, a lot of Koreans, Vietnamese. So I think my environment was very much used to the multicultural, and things like that didn't happen as often.
Right.
But I can imagine, people that grow up in more, isolated areas that are one race, that they are the ones that don't understand this kind of stuff. They don't understand why we look different, we eat different foods, and why, we don't wear shoes in the house. And, it's just, every little thing that's different about us, they kind of joke about it, but they really, I think some people really want to know why things are that way. You know what I mean? But they have to do it jokingly because it's awkward.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's also, my best friends were Filipino, Japanese, Taiwanese, Chinese, it was just like, and we all have Vietnamese wives. It's kind of weird, but it was just weird. It's just, we didn't see each other as even different cultures, because we all know what Filipinos eat. We all know what Vietnamese people eat. And it's just like, it's not even that different to me anymore. It's like almost like American. That's what America is, you know? So I've been blessed. I've been blessed to be around a multicultural world where things like that don't even stand out. And,
on the spot, like, can you, because I don't want, and this happens oftentimes too for people who are maybe disregarded or disrespected in this manner, we can go into a rabbit hole of just complaining about that. But can you think of any particular situation where a player in a gentle way or in a different way changed the dynamic of the vibe of the conversation when it was a joke, or where it was like, it wasn't like that nerdy, come on guys, everybody stop, but it's, was there any particular players that maybe we can even shout out that you can highlight, just think of and say, you know what, this man handled it the right way?
He was a kid at the time, Chandler Parsons. Man, was
he. Shout out Chandler, wherever you are.
No, he was pointing out the fact that the black guys could say the N-word with the A, like the rap songs. and he felt left out. He was serious. He was felt left out.
Hmm.
So, but he knew he couldn't say it just openly to
Mhm.
a African American guy.
Sure.
Player. So he started saying, "What's up, my ninjas?" And
Oh
that, like,
no.
I'm serious. And that kind of
Yeah.
became like, I think, Jeremy Lin started saying that. Like, all the staffers were saying that, and it was like, hey, if we can't say what you guys say, then we're gonna, make up our own word or whatever.
Hmm.
And it's almost that youthfulness, that innocence, you know what I mean,
Sure.
that breaks those walls down, because kids don't see color. My son goes to a 75% Asian school.
Hmm.
He thought, when I told him how many, we were talking about something, and he was like, yeah, I think like half of my class is black. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. And he goes, he started naming these Indian kids. He
Yeah.
thought Indians were black because they
Sure.
were just darker skin. And
Sure.
I'm like, that was awesome to me. Like, he doesn't even understand that they're a different race or
Yep.
different. It's just they're darker
Yep.
than we are. So, people decipher him that way. So I think the innocence of youth can really see through some of that stuff and just say, like, why are y'all doing that? Like,
Mhm.
and just speak the truth and not
Yeah.
worry about politics and hurting
Yeah.
someone's feeling. And it's almost they're so naive that they get away with it. And it does break down some of those barriers.
Yeah.
It brings people together because like you said, it's lighthearted,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I think there's a difference, right, of being hurtful and how it can affect you negatively
Yep.
in the workplace,
Yep.
especially in the NBA.
Yep.
I've said it to you yesterday that, predominantly a large majority of the players are black throughout my whole career.
Hmm.
A large majority of the coaches have been white throughout my whole career. I have been the Asian guy.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And just
Mhm.
recently now there was a few Indian guys on our staff, and it's starting to trickle in, but I was that Asian guy for probably 10 years.
Yep.
And it was like, I didn't even have a name. When I go somewhere, it's like, oh, that Asian guy that's with the Rockets.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it's
Yep.
just, I don't know. It sucks that, they don't know me by who I am or what I do. It's just, that's the Asian guy, that type of stuff, kind of hurts. But, in the NBA, there's different ways of climbing the ladder, for sure. A lot of, early on, a lot of it was who you know, who appreciates your work, who values your work, and how much power that person has,
Mm.
and what they're willing to do to help you with your journey, right?
Mm.
I will say, the Van Gundys, the Rick Adelmans, the Rudy Tomjanoviches, like these guys, they knew why they were successful. They knew why their lives were easy traveling. They knew why they could leave on time because of the equipment staff or whatever it was. You know what I mean? And they valued that, and they made sure that you were financially stable, that you were happy, that they didn't want to lose you, and they valued you. And they did whatever they could to make you happy to be there. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I feel like lately you've kind of lost that. You've lost that loyalty of trying to not just look out for yourself, but provide for the people that are good-hearted and that work hard and help you do your job and be successful. And I definitely don't blame anybody directly.
Yep.
But I think a lot of it came from even generations before them.
Sure.
Like the Van Gundys had the Pat Rileys teaching him. You know what I mean? The Rudy Tomjanoviches had the Bill Fitches.
Mhm.
Whoever was their coach
Mhm.
or their head coach at the time taught them that this is how you're supposed to treat your staff and your employees.
Yeah.
And it's changed, and it kind of became a little cutthroat to me.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that were climbing the ladder the wrong way, not through
Mm.
their work, not through their what they bring to the team, but just by bad
What's
mouthing
next? Yeah. Or
bad
yeah.
mouthing or attaching themselves to somebody that they know has some clout with management. you know, and that's where the race can play a role. When you don't have a strong cultural bond with somebody that's above you, it's hard for them to look out for you like that. You know, it's almost like they take you in as almost like a son. And when you're not of the same culture and you don't look like them, or, you know, do the same things or eat the same foods, it's like, hey, do you want to come eat steaks with us or whatever? And I would always be like, I have so much work to do. You know what I mean? I can
Yeah.
go eat with y'all, and then I'm going to be up all night and still not get done the
Yeah.
way I want it to be done.
Yeah.
Or I can stay in the room, eat a $35 hamburger from the Ritz-Carlton and get my work done. So, you know, I don't know if that, because of that social distance, even back then, where
Yep.
they're inviting you to come eat, and
Yep.
you're like, no, I got to work.
Yeah.
And they don't feel that connection off the court to treat you like
Yeah.
family. That may have been part of it as well.
Now, some of that, yeah. Do you say, hey, do you look at it and go, hey, some of that's on me? Do you think, reflecting back on it? Yeah.
It is. And it's because I think one of the cultural things of Koreans is they take on too much.
No doubt.
You know, it's
Speak
like,
on it.
why am I gonna give these 5 tasks to this guy when I know I can do it better? You know what I mean? And I know
it's terrible. Why would, yeah.
And when he does give it back to me, I'm gonna have to look at it for another, you know, half the time anyways to make sure it's right, you know, because that's just your nature.
Yeah.
And we have to start trusting others and learning how to manage the work and not just do it all. And I still do it, but now being in this environment and being a leader, a founder of a company, like, you almost have to train yourself how to do project management and how to handle employees and how to
delegate, trust. Yeah. You can't, hey, it turns out, John, you can't do it all by yourself. Hey, listen, I mean, I think we need to have you on for like 7 more episodes to get to Kevin McHale era, Bernie Bickerstaff, Mike D'Antoni. You had a heart attack. We'll get to it. That one we won't leave out. But let's just so that, you know, we don't want to keep we want to keep this flow going.
Sure.
You have a company, so you have this 19-year career. You actually get let go, which is, you know, that's just speaking truth on it, you know, right? And then you have to pivot, and you have a company now. You're running an interesting company. So everybody who's been listening, there's tons more stories to have, and maybe we'll get to it. But before, in case we don't lose time, post Rockets life for John Cho, what's going on?
So heartbroken. Like, this is all I know. It's my only job I've ever had out of college. And it really hit me when I'm filling out a resume. I've never filled out a resume in my life. And now I'm 43 years old, putting a resume together. I'm like, dude, what is going on?
Which, by the way, your resume is ridiculous. Like, it's absurd. You could, you know what I mean? Just respect to what you do. But okay, so you're doing this, you're like, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah, and you know, it was hard. It was it took me a while to grasp the fact that, look, it's not over. I feel, you know, at first I was like, man, I went to school for computer engineering. You know, I could have been a programmer right now, you know, in an office making, you know, building some apps and things like that. And, you know, I just said, what opportunities are out there? And the CEO of the company, luckily, you know, got my number from one of the Rockets ex-coaches, and basically told him, this guy can make anything happen. Like, you know, you need him on your team when you're so lean, because he can do anything. And, you know, coming on staff, we were everywhere at first. We were chasing youth data, which is really, so Ryan Geardot is our CEO. It's not my company.
Okay.
He's the CEO. Ed Chow is our COO. He joined on a few months ago, 3 or 4 months ago. And I am the CPO, the products officer. And, you know, I was basically just making the same thing. I was building processes to make the reports
Yep.
of stats for high school PSA kids. And we went down that journey for many years. And it's tough. Like it's a different world. I know you know about it.
Yep.
But the Scholastic and the PSA and the club tournaments, it's a different world. There's a lot of different motivators for the leaders and operators in those areas.
Yep.
But without having buy-in from those guys, it's going to take some work and some foundational work to build it up so that every single kid in the nation can get exposure for what they do on the court. And that's our dream. That is our dream. It still is. We've hit a lot of bumps in the road, but in the end, that's what we want. We want to give every kid a fair chance to be seen by a college so they can get a scholarship like anybody else. It doesn't matter if you're in a small town that doesn't have any exposure to any scouts or recruits. But what we've built is a algorithm that allows us to give a overall player rating and also a relative rating for that competition, so that we can start comparing a kid from New York that played at a top level competition to a kid that's, you know, in a small program where there's 3 teams, you know, playing or whatever it is. But everything becomes apples to apples. And the beauty of the algorithm is it just requires box score stats. You don't need play-by-play. You don't need Eagle camera data, you know, and we did some regression models over the last 40 years of the NBA, and it just works. It puts a player like Steph Curry right next to Anthony Davis, and they have completely different stat lines, but they have the same value, pretty much, you know, as far as overall ratings go. So, you know, we're still learning, we're still absorbing a lot more data, but recently we've built a platform for college recruiting within college NCAA, Division 1 and 2, mostly for the transfer kids. And it's a way to see what we have is something called the 5MS system. It's the 5 skills metrics that we have built in for scoring paralysis, 3-point percentage, big man skills, floor general skills, and defensive impact skill set. And it's all based on 100. So now you can look at a player that was a freshman all the way till he was a senior and see how much he's developed every year. And it doesn't matter what level or competition they're at. And the CRAM is the one that ties everything together, because even if he was in Division 2, he was, you know, if he was a 10.0, he was the top of Division 2. You know what I mean? So now you have a way to compare light competition, you know. So, you know, one of the big, I won't go too much into this, but
you're completely nerding out. I love it.
It's fascinating to me. It's fascinating to me because it's taken us almost 12 years to develop, you know, this formula, and it's getting bought into now. And it works. Like we're like, try to break it, make it not work.
So tell the people about the company. There's a Twitter handle. There's all that, the socials. What's the name of the company?
The name of the company is Cerebro Sports.
Cerebro.
And it's kind of a play off of Marvel, Cerebro, where it's kind of connecting all the. I know it's kind of nerdy.
This is like completely embracing the nerd ball, which is we glossed over the Daryl Morey era that you lived through. And we talked about our good friend BJ Johnson. Who was like, man, analytics, get out of here, man. Like, you know.
And that's what I was telling you guys yesterday, that BJ is from a different world. Like, I don't, you know, he was probably using a flip phone till like last year. But that flip phone must have had 150 gigs of memory just for phone contacts.
Because he had every single number in the league.
I'm telling you.
People like me, a high school coach in Lake Oswego.
I'm telling you, you could just name a guy and he's like, which one do you want? There's like 8 of them. Like, man, but you know what? If you got a call from BJ, you would pick it up.
Absolutely.
Because man, a guy that was loved by everybody. I don't know anybody else that's like that. And
well, it's because he loved everybody.
And that's the thing.
You get back what you give out, man.
That's the thing. That was the thing, and that's why God bless his wife. Like, we were blessed to see him once in a while,
Mm,
and it changed our day.
mhm.
And for his wife Claudette to, man, not see him ever again, like, uh,
No,
it's tough. That's
no,
really tough. It's really
but
tough.
you,
It's
yeah.
really strong
Just
lady.
just just
Yeah.
for the folks who are wondering who this legend is, BJ Johnson, longtime scout for the Houston Rockets. My connection to him, I was sharing with John yesterday, was working the Basketball Without Borders camp back in 2006 in Africa. And you want to talk about Africans who love a human being? That was BJ Johnson. He might as well have been an African citizen of some sort. But
I was
um,
blessed to play pickup with him. Oh,
were you blessed to do a heavy jump rope exercise routine
oh.
with him as well?
No, but I know he's probably had about 25 of those jump ropes that he's broken and had to buy new ones because he uses it
Right,
so often. But
right.
man, his hitch that he had, like when he was attacking the rim, got you every time. And he was so long and so good at footwork. He could get a layup from the 3-point line like with one dribble if he wanted to every time.
Mhm.
But man,
He lived a
uh,
full life, just recently passed away this past year in a horrific, bicycle accident. But, the outpouring of love for this man is, you talk, we're kind of, I feel like there's certain spots in your life where you mentioned Rudy T, you mentioned the Adelmans of the world, the Jeff Van Gundys, and then you put BJ Johnson, you know, right up there with those legendary names in the game. So,
100%. Yeah. No, I don't know a better soul. And the Rockets
yeah.
lost a really,
Mm,
it's just a bright beam of sunshine that just, it
yep.
didn't matter if we were 0-22 for the season. Like
Yeah.
BJ would make you smile and enjoy being around him. So
Honestly, and I don't know if this has been for you and Daniel. I'm gonna ask you to now round both of us, rein us in, because we're that now. This is just me and John just gonna riff. But and please, like, put a you can put a bow on this whole conversation and maybe set it up for even another conversation down the line. But I don't know about you, John, but after the weeks after BJ passed away, I found myself like, it's like, what would Jesus do, man? Like, what would BJ do? Like if I got, because I'm a moody person, I'm a high school coach. I deal with like moody teenagers all the time. And instead of exploding on a kid or whatever, I would be like, take a minute and go, what would BJ do?
yep,
And it would literally be just, he would just put his arms around you,
yep,
let you know he loved you and you were valued. And we talk about just mourning the loss for Claudette. I just feel like it is a loss, but like the angel of the human being that he is, like Claudette has like a cousin in Lake Oswego that she didn't know about. Like she has all these family members that he planted a seed across the globe that, you know, if Claudette called me for whatever reason,
sure,
I'd pick up,
yep.
right? And
Oh,
I've never
100%.
spoken to I'd
Yep,
never spoken to her.
100%.
And
Yeah,
so, you want to talk about legacy. Um, yeah, man. I
yeah.
think, I would challenge you. I just met you. This is my second night talking to you, but I feel like I've known you forever. But man, you have such an amazing journey. My hope and prayer for you is that your face is seen, your name is known, and that this company just blows up, and especially set up the way it is with the transfer market. Watch out, Cerebros, nerd out. Let's go. Let's get some data. Let's get some analytics.
Yeah,
So,
no, it's been going crazy. We've been getting a lot of colleges signing up every day. Yeah, I don't think we've had one demo that has been denied. They've all purchased after a 30-minute session. And man, you're talking 60, almost 60 players a day are transferring. It's like 5% of the NCAA is in the portal.
yeah.
And for our product to be refined and ready to go right at this moment, it's the biggest blessing that we could ask for. Timing is huge when it comes to startup companies,
Yep.
for sure.
Absolutely. Daniel, I think that's about an hour mark,
I,
man. Do you got anything for us, man?
man, you know what? Again, just like yesterday, soaking it all in. But no, very truly fascinating story, right? Just coming from, your mother's 8 months pregnant,
Mm,
being born a week after coming to the States, into having the opportunity with the Rockets and just everything that came to culmination in that 19-year career, and then now this new venture. Like, I mean, this past hour 15, I don't know, it's just we touched on so many different topics.
And yeah, we haven't scratched the surface.
Right. And so we can do a part two of this, but for now, we'll just go ahead and tie it up here.
Hey,
Again,
can I real quickly give
of
a shout
course,
out
of
to a few
course.
guys like
Yes.
Carol Dawson is the first guy that gave me my first contract. I love the guy. I don't know anybody that doesn't has any kind of qualms with him. And he's given me the first official guaranteed contract of my NBA career. And to this day, we still see each other when we can, and I love the guy. After him, Daryl took over, and he opened my eyes to a whole different world of what's out there as far as analytics goes. And it gave me the niche that I had for 6 to 7 years of being that bridge of these crazy numbers to how you can actually use them to support your coaching strategy and not to change your coaching strategy. And I think that's a big stepping stone for analytics. A lot of times coaches don't like analytics because they think it's going to make them coach differently. But what you do need to understand is you can use the analytics for your benefit to support your strategies, to amplify coverages that you want players to pay attention to. And I think that's the first step that I saw, me applying those numbers for those coaches to put in our presentations to say, this guy is shooting 85% on us in the last 4 out of 5 games, whatever it is. Like, you start playing with these numbers, and you can use it to amplify what you want by not having to scream at them, and yet lastly, I wanted to point out that Coach Adelman, man, I was very blessed to work for a coach that had over 900 wins in the NBA. That's unheard of. And the way he did it was so methodical. Like, he never screamed. I think over the 4 years he was there, he maybe raised his voice 3 times. And we're talking about, this is the transition from, the old coaches that were on the field players to the new generation of the players that didn't want to be coached. And he just put you in a situation that made you were able to be successful. He wouldn't set you up for failure, and he did it methodically. He didn't, force things. So, yeah, Rick Adelman, I love that guy, and his staff was great to me as well. I didn't know them before they came to the organization. I was forced onto them by Daryl, and they gave me a chance, and it ended up being some of the best basketball that the Rockets ever played, in my mind. But I will also say that, when you're on a team, sometimes the coaches and the management are on opposite sides of the fence of what you're trying to accomplish. And as a coaching staff, your job is to get the most out of the players they provide you. And that's all you can do. My first 6 years with the Rockets, we didn't make the playoffs. But guess what? We played over our potential, and we still couldn't make the playoffs. But at least we did more than we were supposed to. And I think that's really important for coaches, because a lot of times it's a blame game. Don't be one of those guys. Like, take it upon yourself, do what you can with what God's given you in front of you, and make the most out of it.
Love it. I love it. I mean, you just spent the past few moments just giving people shout outs, and I think ultimately that's what we want to do here with the Kimchi family, right? Like, I think it's crazy that I recently have heard about you in the past month, but you spent 19 years in the NBA. I had no idea that there was John Cho, a Korean guy, on the Rockets bench. And so it's like people like you, stories like this, that we're trying to go ahead and like you said, amplify to the next generation, to anyone that's really listening, whether you're Korean or not. Just these stories are so valuable, and the lessons that you get are so keen. And like you said too, like how BJ Johnson had really impacted both of you guys' lives, and how can we go ahead and carry on that spirit of BJ to the next generation, to other people around you. And so ultimately, that's what we're trying to do here at the Kimchi Family. So again, we appreciate you for coming on to just share a little bit regarding your journey. But I know this might shock you a little bit. I got one last question for you. We do this with every one of our guests.
Uh-oh.
We are the Kimchi Family. We just so happen to be all Korean here. What is your favorite kimchi, John Cho?
Ooh,
Oh boy,
favorite kimchi.
what you got?
Oh man, it's something.
Don't go making a spreadsheet or nothing, John. You just gotta choose, bro.
I might not even know the right. It's something that probably grosses most people out.
Uh-oh. Which one?
And I never get it anymore. Like I used to get it all the time as a kid.
I'm nervous.
Yeah, what are we
Hongo.
talking about?
You know what a
What?
hongo is? Hongo?
Hongo.
Honga.
Does that count?
It's pickled, right? No?
Explain that one to me.
It's stingray.
Yeah.
Is it the orange one? Is
It's
it
the
kind
one
of
that has the little cartilage bones in it and it's meaty, but it's pickled.
John, is that kimchi, bro?
Is
That's
it?
why
It's,
okay, let me
John-
do it.
John-
No.
This is a first.
Yeah,
This says a lot about you, John Cho.
Hey, man.
You definitely booked a second interview.
I'm telling you, my mom, it was a fight at the table because man, she made some good food.
If it's pickled, you know what, man?
it might be
Whatever.
kimchi.
That works. That
Okay,
Kimchi
works.
is a process. Kimchi is a
Okay, let me
process.
get to that. Let me get to because that's
Okay.
really not. It's not a
Wow.
vegetable. It's
Okay,
not a
okay.
vegetable, right?
Yes.
It's pickled vegetable. Yeah, I'm an oddball, man. I'm not
You
just.
are an
into
oddball.
or-
Oh,
Yeah, chonga kimchi.
Chonga kimchi.
Okay.
Safe.
I like
Radish
that.
kimchi, a
I like
little
that.
bit of the radish, a little bit of the leaf.
Why not? Yeah.
Versatile, gets the job done.
So it's not all panchan. It's not just a pickled panchan. It has to have the kimchi, like the seojut and all that.
Sure.
Mm.
Yeah, all that stuff in there to be kimchi.
Yeah.
Like the garlic one doesn't count, right? The garlic
No.
stems. What is
No.
that one called?
Are you trying to lobby for a third choice? Because you just
No,
gave,
no.
we're just taking one.
You're making me think of Korean food. Hey man,
Oh, man.
I go to my mom's house and she's like, "Hey, I made your kids some galbi and I
Oh,
made them-"
boy.
It's just like, whew. My mom is amazing mother. And one last thing, like about my dad is,
Yeah.
one thing I learned from my dad was it's not always being around and saying what saying you need to do this, you need to do that, but by living by just an example of how he treated my mom, how he worked and came in all filthy and just ate, showered, went to bed, and he was okay with it as long as we were eating and we had what we wanted. And a lot of the times I think I do it. You overparent, but the kids I think learn the most off of what you do, how you treat each other.
Absolutely.
No more
Absolutely.
I love it. I love it. I love it. No, that was awesome. Hey, we appreciate it again. Hey, we might need to go 5 episodes, Marshall, with John.
This
I
is a
don't know.
mini series
I don't
with
know.
John Cho.
This was fun. I think we got through about 2 of the pages. No, I'm just-
Hey, that's success, bro.
I love it. I love it.
No,
All right.
yeah, definitely. I appreciate you guys letting me speak my mind, and I really enjoyed it. I think if we were maybe 5,000 miles closer to each other, we could go hang out once pandemic's over. I already
Absolutely.
got my second vaccine shot, so
Hey,
I'm ready to go.
all right, same here. Let's do it.
Me
So,
left.
sorry, Daniel, you have to wait.
Yeah, you gotta wait till the end of May.
Yeah.
Hey, just have a heart attack. They'll let you go.
Oh, jeez. We've definitely gone on the deep end here, so I'll try to wrap it up real quick. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. John Cho, again, Houston Rockets for 19 years, now Cerebro Sports. Go give them a follow. Twitter handle probably at Cerebro Sports, Instagram at Cerebro Sports. And that's it for us, episode 7. John Cho, we're out. Thank you guys.
Take care, guys. Thank you.